All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. We are going to doing a review of the Batman, which I saw last night, and then I don't mind doing a live Q&A. I think it would be fun if you guys had any questions. Let me make sure my mic's working. Can you hear me? Why it's always an issue with this mic? Well, I'm hoping that people can hear me. If you can hear me, just let me know in the comments. Hopefully, or you know what, I could just play it on my thing. But hopefully, you guys can hear me. I do. Let me see. I do. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to review the movie first. That way, in case you guys are watching this after the live stream, you get the review. If you want to stay after for what we're going to talk about, the Q&A, I got a few questions ahead of time from people that I'm going to answer. But if you're watching currently and you have questions for Batman, just leave those questions in the comments and I will get to them. We're going to try to keep this spoiler free because this movie's not out yet, and I know people are really excited for it. So, if you have a question, try to keep it spoiler free, or if you have a question that has semi spoilers, I will try to answer it spoiler free. So anyway, the Batman. If you don't know the plot of this movie, which would be surprising as there's like 20 trailers out for this movie and clips, the Riddler is pretty much up to no good. He has had enough of these politicians and he is going after them, murdering them in a pretty brutal way. It's very reminiscent of Seven, if you've seen Seven, or pretty much any noir detective type movie. And so he's killing people, or sorry, killing politicians, killing corrupt cops, killing all that, like corrupt DA and all that. So he's going after them. Batman obviously doesn't want that to happen. And then you also have the crime angle where you're dealing with the Punisher and Punisher, Penguin, and that. So you got a nice balance of the crime world and also kind of more the over the top detective stuff with the Riddler. So right away, I gotta say, one of the things I like about this movie is it's very moody. It is extremely moody, and that could be a turnoff for some people who don't want that over the top kind of artsy, moody feel of it. But I think this movie is beautiful. This feels like Gotham, more so than another most of the Batman films I've seen recently. I think this is the closest to maybe like the Tim Burton Batman films where Gotham feels like an actual comic book world. I mean, it's very gritty. There's people running around with face paint and, beating the shit out of people for absolutely no reason. So it is very much a comic book world, even though there's people that do that. But at the same time, it does have that gritty feel. So right away, there's a lot of characters in this movie. You have Batman, Jim Gordon, Selena as Catwoman, Penguin, Riddler, so on. There's a lot. What I really have to say, the standout character for me, I've seen a lot of reviews saying either Catwoman's the standout, Batman, Riddler, whoever it is that really stands out for people. For me, it was Jim Gordon. It's always been like a pet peeve of mine that Jim Gordon never gets the love, never gets the screen time, and never gets the plot lines that he deserves. Like, Jim Gordon is one of the main characters in the Batman mythos, and he never really gets that. So I really enjoyed him in this movie. I thought that he gave a lot of great character moments with Bruce, which is actually really nice. They team up a lot. The chemistry between them is really good. And this Jim Gordon actually feels like Jim Gordon. He's that, over like tired cop who's doing this and kind of trying to help take down crime in a poetic, like, justice way. He's the good guy. He's the good cop. But he's also pretty funny. He brings some pretty funny lines into the movie that kind of help make this movie, get a little bit of laugh in a very serious movie. So Jim Gordon to me is the standout of the movie. But I'll get to other characters who I really liked. I have to say one thing, and it's a small thing, is Batman is in the bat suit about 80% of this movie. I'm not joking. He is in this bat suit so much, and I fucking love that, man. I can't tell you how many times I'm watching a superhero movie and they're in their costume for like maybe 10 minutes, and then they're always in their just regular clothes or whatever, or their masks are off. Like, I love Iron Man, but I feel like he's in the Iron Man suit for like 10 minutes of a 2-hour movie. Batman, he's like, no, I'm gonna wear this to sleep. I'm gonna wake up in the bat suit. Every time I talk to someone in the bat suit, I really, really enjoyed it in that factor. I just love the fact that he's in his bat suit, and this bat suit is perfection. I'm not joking. This is the best bat suit for live action, in my opinion. There's a lot of good bat suits for live action, but I've never really been a fan of the Nolan one, or the older ones kind of feel a little outdated. This one, he feels like he's mobile, he can fight, and it looks great. Especially the bat symbol, fucking badass. And not spoiler, it is actually a weapon, so that's cool. So another thing with Batman, so people are asking, how's Bruce Wayne? This is the Twilight actor. I mean, guys, you got to see other movies. He's a great actor. But Robert really puts it all into Bruce. Now, I feel like this might be a divide. Some people might not like this Bruce. He's very somber. He's very moody. Like, I'm talking about very Nirvana moody, like he's always upset at things. But I have to say, one thing I really liked about him, he does a lot with his eyes. He's always looking. He's very intense with his eyes. There's scenes where there's no dialogue and he just uses his eyes to kind of tell you what he's thinking. I like that stuff. I don't need Batman to be talking, and Batman, of course, has some badass lines, but I like the fact that he does a lot just with the eyes. So I have to say this Batman is extremely reckless, and that leads to some intense fighting. So this is not really a spoiler. There's a moment in the movie where, Batman knows he has to go somewhere to take out the crime boss or talk to someone. And he just walks right up into it. He's not sneaking around. He's not in the shadows. He goes through the front door. He says, listen, I got to talk to someone. And they're like, who the fuck are you? And he's like, you don't know who I am? And he just proceeds to fuck shit up. This Batman just goes in head first. Now, he has gadgets and stuff to get out of situations, but he's very, very intense. He's very focused. And this Batman is still new. He's only been doing this for 2 years, I think they said in the movie. But I feel like this Batman's so reckless that we're getting like a Batman that's kind of savage. And it works for this movie because this is kind of like an origin story without being an origin story. So Batman, pretty awesome there. How about Selina? Like, she is posted as a big part of the movie, and she is. Catwoman is a big part of the movie. I really liked her. I think Zoe Kravitz, is that how you say her name? Excellent actress. She really gives Selina that. See, for me, Catwoman is like that seductive, badass, gonna mess you up, cool superhero kind of villain sometimes. And she does really well here. She deals with a lot of emotional twists. There's a twist with her that I didn't see coming. And she has pretty good fight scenes. That's the thing. So Batman is very, strategy, like very lethal. Boom, one hit, you're out. Selina is quick, agile, like a cat, and she definitely has some great fight scenes in this as well. I wish pretty much the only thing I wish more for was more Catwoman. I wish we had an extra 15, 20 minutes of her fighting, because I think that would have definitely been awesome. But these are superhero movies, so the superheroes are great. What about the villains? Like, we need villains to complement the heroes, and the two main villains are Penguin and Riddler, which they're both solid. Riddler is definitely an interesting character, very much a broken person. But what's really cool about the Riddler in here is he's just not a psycho just to be a psycho. I mean, he does some horrendous shit. So this movie is rated PG-13, but you definitely know they edited some of these kills in this movie, because there are some like teetering to the R-rated section of movies. So the Riddler is very serial killer esque. So be prepared for that. If you're taking your kids, it is intense that what he does. I will also say that I actually liked kind of why the Riddler does what he does. It makes sense, even if it's over the top, even if it's extremist. It makes sense. It doesn't feel like a character. Penguin is a crime boss. He definitely brings some levity to the movie. He has funny moments. I swear to God, if you didn't know this was Colin Farrell, there is no way I would have guessed that he was this person, because he transforms in this movie. But I actually like the Penguin in this movie. I don't really like the Penguin as a villain in Batman comics. I read a lot of Batman comics, and if you can't tell, and I usually don't like Penguin. I don't have any stories with the Penguin where I'm like, oh, he's one of the greatest characters. Just doesn't happen. But in this movie, the Penguin definitely provides some funny moments. So intriguing of what he's going to do next. I think that's a really awesome part. What about, it's a 3 hour, very slow burn. I want to warn people, this is not your typical superhero movie, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. What I mean by that is you go in expecting big, bombastic fight scenes. You're not really going to get that. Now, there are fight scenes and they're great, but there's no villain versus hero fight scene for 10 minutes. It's just not going to happen. This movie is very much a slow burn detective story. What I would link it closest to with superheroes maybe would be the Daredevil TV show, in terms of like that slow burn. You get a lot of story. The fight scenes happen and they're only like 5 minutes, but they're excellent. And then back to the story. That is pretty much Batman. Me, I personally love that. I love that we have a different feel for a Batman film. We already got the bombastic superhero Batman. We already got, the villain versus hero for 10 fight scenes. We all Justice League and all that, Batman versus Superman. I wanted a detective movie. I wanted a noir Batman movie, and this is 100% that. But I'm warning people that it is that. So if you're looking for the superhero Batman that beats up Darkseid, it's not going to happen. If you're looking for a Batman detective movie in the vein of like other thrillers like Seven or Silence of the Lambs, like that slow burn, that's what this is going to provide. Saying that, this is probably the most least approachable Batman film for kids. Now, listen, Batman is usually more mature character. He's a darker character. He is the Dark Knight. But I can't imagine a kid 12 years old or 10 years old sitting through this movie and enjoying it. It is dark. It is moody. It is slow paced. It is violent. And I just can't see. Like, I feel like if I was 10 years old and I watched this movie, I wouldn't like it. 15, yeah, I would enjoy it. 17 definitely would be up my alley. But now, as an adult, I love it. But saying that, there were I'd say there's like 3 or 4 kids in the theater, and they were all passed out by the time this movie ended. So this is not for kids. This is not for kids, in my opinion. It's very, very minimal approach. However, if you're an adult and you don't have kids, who cares, right? Like I said, the fight scenes are here. Now, they're spread out. This is a 3-hour movie. I'd say there's a surprisingly good amount of fight scenes. I think there's like 4 or 5 fight scenes in this movie. And I enjoy them all. They're definitely quick. They're fast. Batman is proficient when fighting, so he takes the people out. If he's fighting 4 or 5 guys, he's not gonna mess around and tap them, boom, boom. No, he's gonna go lethal, like hit the leg and break it so they're down for the count, or hit him in the face, knock him out. That's Batman here. So the fight scenes are quick, they're brutal, they're very hand to hand. He does do some gadget stuff, which is cool. But this is a very quick fight scene. There's no villains that last 10 minutes. I want people to know that. So talking about being a slow burn, one of the things I was talking about I loved is it's a detective movie. Now, if you don't know, Batman is considered the world's greatest detective. That's his kind of tagline. He is definitely a detective in this movie. He will figure out stuff with you. What I really like, it's not just instant. He's not like, oh, there's a clue, boom, I know what's happening, let's go stop the Riddler. He's figuring it out when the Riddler wants him to figure it out. Now, he is definitely smart. When the riddles come up, right away he knows the answer, which is really cool. Like, that shows how smart he is. I also like the fact that Alfred helps him figure out crimes for the Riddler. That was great. So, saying that, I really enjoyed the fact that this is Bruce Wayne doing detective work, because guess what, guys? He's a detective. So if you like that stuff, we have not seen that in film. I promise you. Remember that 2-minute, I think it was in Dark Knight, where Bruce was like, oh, let me use this machine to figure out how it goes through the thing. You're like, oh, he's a detective. That was that was like a shitty scene. But it's like that for like 2.5 hours. So he's always figuring out who's doing what, connecting the dots, and figuring out what the hell is happening in his city. And the last thing I really want to talk about really is the ending. I really enjoyed the ending in this movie. I think it like kind of pushes Bruce Wayne or Batman into a new direction. Now, we've seen it kind of before what they're doing here, but it is to me an interesting way of where they're going with this character. So yeah, I enjoyed the ending. It was a little darker than I thought it was going to be. What happens the big event at the end? You know, there always has to be a big bombastic event in superhero movies. They did it, but on a smaller scale. Like it affects the city, but it doesn't affect every single buddy, which I really liked. So yeah, I really enjoyed the ending here. I thought it was solid. And again, just like the rest of the movie, it's really somber, really sad, maybe a little depressing at times. So just be prepared. It's not going to be a happy go ending, which you shouldn't expect in a Batman film. So, saying all that, 15 minutes of me rambling on about this movie, what did I think overall? I really enjoyed it. Can I safely say it's the best Batman film? I don't know. Like, I feel like I want to, but I also really appreciate The Dark Knight. I will say this: The Dark Knight still has the Joker, and the Joker is a phenomenal character in that movie. I don't care what anyone says. He's just so good. He makes the movie so interesting. And I character in here that's a villain that's as good as the Joker for me. Saying that, Batman in here, I really liked. I think this is my favorite Batman. Now, is he the perfect Batman? I don't know about that, but I think Robert really gives it his all, and I really like that he doesn't kind of have to just speak on like talk it out. Like you could just tell by his intense emotion in his eyes and face. So saying that, what would I give the movie out of 10? I think I'd give it the same rating as The Dark Knight, which I gave a 9 out of 10. It is definitely up there as one of my favorite movies of the year so far, if not my favorite. Well, there's not that many movies this year. But I'm definitely gonna say it's a unique superhero movie. I hate when people say this superhero movie's super unique, and I'm like, no, not really. It's just kind of like the same superhero movie, but you're putting like spy action adventure into that. Like I love Winter Soldier, but it feels like all the other superhero movies, a big bombastic adventure. This is going totally against that. And it's either going to work and you're going to love it, or it's just not going to work. I can definitely see people who love this movie or hate this movie or right in between. This is a very, I think, diverse movie. For me, I ended up loving it. I saw it with my wife, who ended up loving it. So, you know, you got two people here that loved it. The audience reaction seemed pretty positive too. A lot of clapping at the end. But it was also like when we all left, I don't know if everyone was tired, but it wasn't a lot of talking. So it could be tired or it could be that people were thinking about the movie. It's a think type movie. But yeah, so 9 out of 10. I really, really love this movie. I think there's a couple little things like the pacing that sometimes got me, but overall, fantastic movie. Now, I did get a couple of questions beforehand before I put this up that I'll answer. So I have one that says, "Is there a teaser for the sequel?" I don't know if there was an end credit scene. We couldn't stay any longer. It's a 3-hour movie. It was 10 o'clock. I was like, no, we got to leave. It was a 45-minute drive home. I don't know if there's a teaser at the end of the movie, like an after credit scene, but is there a teaser in the movie itself? There is. They introduce a villain. I'm not going to do spoilers at the end. I don't know how I feel about it. Maybe I'll do a spoiler review or just if someone wants to know. But they do tease someone to say, hey, we're going to do more of these movies. Now, obviously, we're going to do more of these movies. It's a Batman movie. So we're going to get more. So, yes, they do kind of tease a villain, I'll say, that could lead to the next movie. Another question I got was pretty interesting. Was it more grounded than the Nolan trilogy? Someone asked me that, and I was thinking about it, and I don't think so. I feel like Nolan's Batman feels like the real world with Batman in it. That's kind of its selling point. This to me still felt like a comic book world. Still felt like we were in a comic book universe. It didn't feel like we were in some New York or something, for me anyway. I don't think this is more grounded than Nolan's. I think Batman does shit, you seen it in the trailers. As much as I love Batman and he has armor on his chest, he's taking fucking shotgun blasts to the chest and he just looks at him like, that's what you got. So there's no way you get shot in the chest and something doesn't ricochet in your fucking face. Come on. But I do think that it's definitely gritty. I'll say that. But it feels still more like a comic book, like I'm reading Long Halloween or something like that. So yeah, I don't think it's as grounded. For me, grounded would feel like more like we're in the actual regular like our world and Batman's in it, but it's still gritty. So if that's what you're looking for, that movie will provide. Another question I got: did it feel too long? No, surprisingly. To me, I call it the end game effect, where these are 3 hour movies nearly, and yet I never felt bored. So I was sitting there and I'm watching, and I felt it. Like I felt like, wow, this is a long movie, but I never felt like, God, this movie, when is it going to end? For me, anyway, I was intrigued. Now there, it does feel like a little disjointed in terms of like leading you to the final act, like the end of the second act movie. So it was definitely an interesting way they did it. But no, I never felt like it was too long or not interesting enough or anything like that. So I actually like that. And surprisingly, being 3 hours, I thought that we would definitely feel that. And we didn't. And then another question I got was, does Batman use a lot of gadgets? He does. Well, he uses the gadgets in a more realistic way. There's a scene where he uses like a flight suit. I don't even know, like it's not like the typical superhero where he glides down and you're like, oh, he's gonna be fine. Like it feels like a realistic suit that's dangerous, and I really like that. We get the grappling hooks, things like that, and he uses them in unique ways, especially at the end. So yeah, there's gadgets in the movie. I don't think they're overly relying on them. It's definitely a lot of hand-to-hand fighting, but when he uses them, it's usually for a reason, whether it's to take someone down, escape, or maneuver. So yeah, you do get a good amount of gadgets. And one of my last questions I got was, how is the Batmobile? Badass. I'm not a big car person. I don't usually like car scenes. In this movie, when the car scene happens, when they introduce the Batmobile, it is intense. It is kind of scary. And I really, really love that. Like that scene to me was one of the best scenes in the movie. It kind of looks like a regular car, but it definitely, when you see him driving it, you're like, oh, this is built to get through shit. So yeah, I really like the Batmobile. I don't think it's like iconic as the original Batmobile or Nolan's, like in the terms of how it looks, but I feel like this is the young days of Bruce, so that's okay. We'll get one. But yeah, it was really cool, the Batmobile. And the chase scene was great. And then my last question I got here was Batman scary? I'm assuming you mean Batman the character, so I'm just gonna talk about that. One thing I really, really liked about Batman in this is they do it differently. So usually Batman's in the shadows and stuff. In this movie, he is the shadows, is what he says. And whether he just walks right up to you and knocks you out, which is scary in itself. One thing I really loved is when he's walking and you don't see him yet, you can hear his footsteps. It's just like, and I'm just like, wow, that's some fucking Jurassic Park shit. Like when the T-Rex is coming, like you just feel the intensity build up. I have to say that's like one of my favorite things of this movie is Batman feels scary. And it works because this is a different Batman than the hopeful Dark Knight that we get later on in his career. Well, hopeful for Batman. But this definitely feels like a Batman who's angry all the time and frustrated with the city and with crime. And so he has to kind of be this vengeance icon. And he says it pretty much in the movie like 6 times that is vengeance. So yeah, Batman was pretty scary. If you mean the overall movie, it was kind of scary. The Riddler was definitely scary, and I got beforehand. I don't think I got any here because you looks like you've already seen the movie. It's better than the Dark Knight. There, I said it. I think it eventually will edge out the Dark Knight for me. I'm thinking about this movie more than I did the Dark Knight, which was instant satisfaction. There's things I think about. I'm like, yeah, I really love that. So I think it will in the end for me, but it's so raw. I gotta let it simmer. I do think it's better than any other Batman film than Dark Knight. I will say that, but I don't know if it's quite up there with the Dark Knight for me yet, or better. I'd say it's up there. I don't know if it's better. It's the Batman film we always wanted on screen. Yes, I will say this is the Batman I did want on screen. Batman himself, I wanted a detective Batman for the longest time. That's to me is one of the most interesting factors because we got a lot of superheroes out there that beat up people, that turn into monsters, that, fight super powered energy beams. But we don't get a lot of detectives. And Batman's a fucking detective. One of the most famous characters is a detective. So I am glad that we finally got a Batman on screen as a detective. It's different than every other Batman film in terms of that part. I just watched the Batman 10 out of 10. Wow, 10 out of 10. Yeah, I could see, that's what I can see. I think this movie is diverse enough where I can see people that ever, and then I see people who are like, I don't really like the slow burn, it's boring, couldn't get attached to Bruce because he is very somber and also very angry. So I can see both sides. I definitely will give it a 9 out of 10. Like I said, I think it's an amazing movie, but not quite like it's in my top 10, but I don't know if it's in my top 5. You know what I mean? But it's definitely up there. And I think that's it. So thank you guys for watching. If you have more questions, I don't mind answering them in the comments below. Just, you can leave a comment. Again, I want to try to keep this spoiler free. So if you do have a question about the movie, just post it below and I will answer it. And keep it spoiler free. If you want like a spoiler question, you can always hit me up on my Twitter and send me a DM. I don't mind answering those. But I hope you guys check this out this weekend. It comes out on Thursday night, so Friday. Very much worth watching. Go in expecting a slower pace Batman who does detective work, and I think you'll really enjoy this. And if you don't, well, what are you going to do, right? This movie's that some people just don't enjoy. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream and also the review. And yeah, have a great day. See you guys later.